So I thought it would be kind of interesting to go over some of the terminology or even words that we frequently heard this past year. It's interesting. Every time we create a show, we produce a show, we could not help but always say the same thing. What's new out there? It just seems like we're always talking about the same things. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to bring those to all of you for this show. Two letters that we probably heard more often than any other letter in the alphabet was AI, artificial intelligence. How much did we talk about artificial intelligence in 2025? Nvidia, the king of artificial intelligence, largest company in the world, largest chip maker in the world, the company that drives AI. How much did we talk about them? We talked about the Fed quite a bit and how much the president of the United States was not happy with what the Fed has been doing. Tariffs. How can we not talk about 2025 without the word tariff? We all know that tariff is President Trump's favorite word. We actually have our first kind of a illustration here, which a bunch of headlines talking about some of these words. Here we have AI dominates 2025 words of the year. This isn't the first time the Fed has struggled for independence. How investors buy gold and what fuels the market. Gold, another popular word in 2025. The headline at the bottom there, Nvidia stock rises on report of new chip sales to China. Canada-US trade tensions. Trade was a big word. Trade and tariffs seem to go together. And I guess the one at the top here was editors vote for Trump's tariffs as the Canadian press news story of the year. So interesting bunch of words. And as I'm sure all of you would agree, we heard these words many, many times throughout 2025. Our next illustration or chart goes into some of these words. There's trade uncertainty spiked this year. U.S. Categorical Economic Policy Uncertainty Trade Policy Index. You can see here the spike in uncertainty and then the coming down of uncertainty as we kind of got into mid-2025, somewhere around May, June, and then things just started to come down. So definitely a great chart to show the uncertainty this past year. Our next chart shows AI and how interesting AI has been. The use of AI by respondents, organizations, percent of respondents or organizations that use AI in at least one business function. And you can see how much AI is being used by businesses today. More and more, we're starting to see not only large businesses use AI, but mom and pop shops, small businesses using AI as well. Our next chart here, what we have is one on tariffs, I believe. Average effective tariff on exports to the US by province. And would it surprise you that Ontario was affected most by tariffs? I don't think it would. Obviously, some of the smaller provinces may not be affected as much. Alberta, which sends energy down south, tariffs on energy were always set at lower amounts. And I think that's because obviously the US needs the energy that we produce. Whereas Ontario, we have the automobiles, we have the steel, we have the aluminum, we have the copper. And so no wonder that the largest bar on this bar chart is the province of Ontario. The Fed, we heard a lot about the Fed. Our next chart shows the three top candidates that we have right now to take over from Jerome Powell to be the head of the Federal Reserve in the new year. And obviously, President Trump is looking to have a Fed be a lot more dovish and looking to have more interest rate cuts in 2026. You can see Kevin Hassett, White House economic advisor, so he already works under the president. Christopher Waller, he is already a Federal Reserve governor. And Kevin Warsh, former Federal Reserve governor. These are the three, I guess, candidates that everybody's looking to replace Jerome Powell. But the Fed, extremely important. And obviously, we heard a lot about the Fed this past year. Our next chart, we move over to gold. And it's an interesting chart, not so much a look back, but a look ahead. And these are predictions by, I believe, JP Morgan, Will gold break through 5,000 an ounce in 2026? Well, you can see there, they believe that it may in the fourth quarter, but it'll probably take the full year to do so. Drop down, I guess, for the first quarter, or sorry, go a little bit higher for the first quarter in 2027. So if you look out for where I guess gold will be at the end of 27, they're predicting that gold moves a lot higher. And last but definitely not least is our I guess Nvidia stock or corporation. It has been probably the most talked about stock, I guess, in the world today. Most talked about company in the world today. Largest company by market cap, $4.5 trillion and rising. It had a bit of a dip recently, but has since moved higher once again, $185 to $190 a share in that range. And perhaps once it goes over 200, because I believe it will, it may even regain its $5 trillion status. And Nvidia today is worth almost 10% of the S&P 500 on its own. And a lot of people thinking, is this a bubble? Is this going to burst? I don't think so. Nvidia to me actually is cheaper today than it was a year ago. That's how fast they are growing earnings. Can Nvidia stock pull back? Sure, but I don't think it's going to pull back because of it's in a bubble. I just think that's what happens to businesses. At some point, they do have a bit of decline, and then that decline is followed by a surge higher. So Nvidia has been in the news and talked about quite a bit in 2025, as well as a lot of the other things we just mentioned: AI, trade, the Fed, gold, tariffs. These were the top words in 2025. We'll have to see what 2026 brings and what words are spoken most in the near to come.